Welcome to Comm 10, the official podcast of the School of Communication at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. We bring you a fast-paced 10-minute spotlight on the voices, stories, and projects shaping journalism, media, and communication on our campus. 10 minutes, one story, all Maverick.
Welcome to Comm 10. This is our first episode of our podcast. We're kicking it off. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. So today I'd like to start with the origin story of the three hosts that you'll see throughout the podcast. So Jodeane, tell us your origin story.
Well, my origin story started like many superhero stories. I grew up in a small town in northwest Iowa.
I was in the Midwest.
On a farm, right? With the horses and the dogs and the cats and all that good stuff. But when I turned about 4 or 5, it's such a strong memory that it seems almost surreal when I tell it. But I wanted my mom to wake me up for the first episode of Good Morning America. And she did. And so I was up at 6, 7 in the morning, whenever it was. And I watched it. And then it was our family tradition to always sit down at night and watch the news while we ate supper. So it just grew up around me, and my parents were always reading newspapers. They were always informed. And I just knew that I wanted to go in television, but I got to tell you, honestly, I never thought I could. What could a girl from, Greenville, Iowa, how could you get on TV? So those are the little doubt demons that kind of sit in your brain when you're going through, puberty and then high school. And I got my first job at a radio station. And I was on air, worked a ton, took all the hours I could. And I did that for several years. And then I went to Sioux City, to Morningside College, where I met the folks at KCAU. I ended up getting a job there. So I was now on my way to being a television reporter, which, again, beyond my dreams, right? This is so cool. And so I did that for a few years. And I actually some people thought it was a bit of an odd step because I went back into radio. But I really found I loved them both. There's just something so personal and intimate about radio that I just love this medium. So I was working at KSCJ, and my husband was transferred to Omaha. And so the condition, because I loved my job, was that I could go to UNO and earn my master's degree. And they called me up and said, "Hey, would you like to be a TA?" And I said, "What's that?" "Yeah, of course." And so that's when I got my foot in the door and I started teaching. I taught television production. I also was a TA for some faculty. And from that point on, I felt like that's where I needed to be. This is amazing. I get to do a little bit of both. I get to still follow my passion and love for telling the truth and telling stories, but also work with like-minded people and teach others to, hopefully future storytellers, to hopefully, follow the truth, even when it's scary or even when you're tired. So I've been doing that now for 25 plus years here at UNO. And it's just been a dream job for me. I can't think of anything else I'd rather do, to be honest. And I know that sounds a little flaky, but it's true.
Yeah, not flaky at all. It's finding your passion and love for the profession. And then when you find that marry with students, I think we all share that kind of excitement. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Tyma, what's your origin story?
Yeah, so I started off, I grew up in Minnesota, just south of Minneapolis, St. Paul. All through K-12, I was the theater speech nerd and band, just throw it all together, trifecta, who also was a skateboarder, went to punk rock shows, right? So I was this weird combination of things. It was the 80s and 90s.
You still are.
I still am. So during my undergrad, my goal was to become a high school teacher. And so I got my high school licensure in speech and English. So I was going to be high school speech and English teacher, and then a forensics coach, debate and speech, right? That was my gig, and it didn't work out. So plan B. So there's a lot of plans that happen in here. I end up moving from the stores for Best Buy to the corporate offices, worked there for a little while I'm doing that. I'm going to my master's at University of Minnesota. Taught there in both the English comp department my first year, and then teaching argumentation and debate my second year in the communication studies department, where I got my degree. Finished that degree up. Still at Best Buy, become a corporate trainer for them for a little while. Then I end up getting poached and recruited to go teach at Brown College, which was a for-profit that primarily worked with career folks, but they wanted me to create a communication undergrad there. So I helped write that, did that. Then I was like, okay, it's time. Applied to PhD programs, moved north to Fargo, NDSU, go Bison, finished up there. And then while I was on the job market, this was one of my finalist spots, came down for the interview, and it was just awesome because I was actually back in a city, and it was great. And there was a music scene, and there was an art scene, and did I say there was a music scene? And so they hired me on here in fall 2008. I've been here ever since, and I get to study all the things I want to study. I've been able to teach, I think I counted 19 different classes I've taught here since I got here. I love it. And that's why you're stuck with me. So there it is.
All right, great. We're really happy to be stuck with you too. That eclectic nature of yours is just going in fantastic. So my origin story, let's see. So I know I say I'm from California all the time, but I'm really from Kansas. I'm not trying to hide that fact, but so my brothers and I were all born in Kansas, moved to 5 different states. By the time I'm 5 years old, ended up in California. Stayed there for a very long time, but moved all over California as well. So I love sports. I always played sports in middle school, high school, and then even afterwards. Soccer, my love, 28 years doing soccer. I still have a fondness for it. I was terrible at basketball, but I played that for 3 years in high school, and then I played volleyball as well. In my later years, I started playing golf, so that's something I can still do and work at occasionally. I used to be much more avid about it, and then I moved to a place that I can't play year-round, so it's kind of changed the game a little bit. But back to the other side. So when I was in middle school and high school, I just loved to write. I wrote all the time. I excelled in my English classes. Everything clicked and made sense. And I would just write stories for fun. And I thought I'd be a writer, a novelist, a journalist. And then I realized I'd have to talk to people. And I was really, really shy, and it was not comfortable for me to do so. But I found communication through my mom, because she was a senior in college when I was a freshman, and we both went to California State University, Sacramento. So she introduced me to the classes, to the faculty, and she was more of a generalist, and I tended to move over towards the production side. So I did radio and television production. And then I realized, like, all my experiences in sports and being on the yearbook and school newspaper and student government, I worked in teams, I worked creatively, I worked with deadlines. It's all the things that you have to use and hone when you work in television production. So I put those skills there, and I really excelled and enjoyed it. At some point, I realized I didn't really write a lot of research papers or spend a lot of time in the library. So I stayed at the same university for my master's degree, and I studied media. So knowing how to create it and produce it from one side, then I started interrogating it and questioning it from a critical side. And then from there, I moved on for my PhD at University of Utah. One of the positions I had was to be in charge of the campus radio station, that I got much more experience than in that sector, and it helped me get my first tenure track job. So back in California, it was kind of a nice homecoming, although now I was in Southern California, so I've run the gamut of the whole state. From there, I was there for 17 years, and I did a lot of different jobs, including being an assistant dean at a branch campus in Palm Desert, and I was in charge of professional theater. And I thought, why am I doing that? Except when I saw the board and the lights, I'm like, this is the same thing that television has. So I felt comfortable with it. And from there, I went to Middle Tennessee State for 5 years to be a department chair. And then I found something even better, to be a director at University of Nebraska, Omaha. And I really, I'm super pleased with this university, the community. Everything's been great. I feel more comfortable in the Midwest than I did in the South, frankly. But I'm really, really impressed by the faculty and students, particularly the number of awards they receive and the number of scholarship dollars that are available. I have not seen that elsewhere at another university. So enough about me. I'd like to turn it back to Jodeane and ask her about the origin of this podcast. Where did this come from? What happened here?
Well, so this summer, during our faculty retreat that we always have in August, I know Dr. Tyma and I have floated around the idea of doing a podcast for several years. And then other faculty have talked to me about this idea of a podcast. And it was in the idea stage for too long of a time. And so I thought, you know what? I have the skills to do it. I can do this. I teach this. We have this beautiful equipment. Thanks a lot to your, getting us this equipment. And we have the resources here. And more importantly, we have all the stories here to tell. So our faculty, amazing faculty that the way they publish, the research they're doing, and what better way to tell their stories than, through audio and of course video as well. And so that day, floated it by Adam and he said, yep, I'm in. And then of course, as it evolved and was talking to you about it and you were interested in the podcast.
Let's do it.
But I know you didn't necessarily want to do it, but I said, if you would, this would be great because who knows more about us and the body of the School of Comm than you? So I'm so grateful to have both of you here today and agreeing to take on this endeavor to tell the stories of our awesome faculty, our awesome students and staff.
Right on.
Great. So, Adam, what do we expect in the coming shows?
Okay, really fast. So, as we said, we've got a diverse range of faculty in the School of Comm, which is fantastic, which also means we have a ton of different interests. As you already know, I'm a geek. So we'll be talking about superheroes. We'll be talking about movies. Just hired a new faculty member. He researches neurodiversity. We'll be talking about social media, journalism, artificial intelligence, fandom and fan cultures, common sports culture, politics and political communication, public relations, and the list goes on. If you ever take a look at our faculty list and look at the stuff that we look at, you'd be shocked at some of the stuff that we publish. I mean, like you brought up, I used to research breweries and beer culture and the whole thing when it was a huge deal. So we look at it all. It's fantastic.
It sounds interesting, smart, and fun.
Yes.
So join us in our future episodes of Comm in 10. I also ask that you follow our social media at UNO School of Communication. And thanks for our first show.
Thanks for listening to Comm in 10, a production of the School of Communication at the University of Nebraska at Omaha. New episodes drop every other week, so be sure to subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. And don't forget to follow the School of Communication on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and YouTube for the latest episodes and behind-the-scene updates.